Being a zookeeper is full of incredible moments, but comes with serious risks. In a world where humans and wild animals meet daily, things can sometimes take a tragic turn. Today, we're sharing the stories of 5 zookeepers, whose lives were sadly cut short by the very animals they cared for. These stories remind us of the fragile balance between people and nature, showing the beauty and danger of working so closely with wild creatures. On April 28, 2018, Mike Hodge was guiding a group of tourists through his big cat sanctuary, the Mercalli Predator Center. Driving the mobile through the park was something the 72-year-old had done countless times before. He had a deep love for animals, especially lions and other big cats, and enjoyed sharing his knowledge with others. The day was going smoothly, with the park's main attraction just around the corner. As the tour was wrapping up, Hodge knew the best part was coming up next. He was excited to give the tourists a memorable experience. Mike Hodge is a British native who once lived a modest life as a trader in England. His wife Chrissy worked as a hairdresser and shop owner. However, the couple dreamed of a life with adventure and a closer connection to nature, particularly with lions. In 1999, they made the bold decision to move to South Africa with their 2 children to turn this dream into reality. Mike's passion for big cats led him to establish the Mercalli Predator Center in 2010. Located near Tambazimbi in the Limpopo province, the sanctuary was built on the couple's lion conservation project, which they had started in 2003. By 2018, the park had over a dozen big cats, including white lions, cheetahs, 2 Bengal tigers, and even more lions. The Mercalli Predator Center aimed to offer a safe, fun, and educational wildlife experience where tourists can encounter these majestic animals in their natural habitat without the threat of hunting. One of the main attractions was the Lion Mobile Tour, a unique experience that allowed visitors to get up close and personal with the lions, guided by Mike himself. On April 28, 2018, a group of tourists were in the truck, safely enclosed by a cage. This setup allowed them to get up close to the lions without any danger. Hodge had placed chickens on top of the cage to grab Shamba's attention and lure him up. Shamba, a 10-year-old male lion, had been hand-reared and bottle-fed by Hodge himself. They had a long history together. Despite their bond, Hodge always took precautions because he knew how dangerous the animals could be. As the truck entered the enclosure, the chickens did their job. Shamba appeared, climbed on top of the cage, and started eating. The tourists were thrilled, snapping photos of the lion to share with friends and family. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and Shamba looked every bit the majestic lion with his proud stance. However, when he opened his jaws to take another bite, his huge, sharp teeth were a stark reminder of his power. Thankfully, the cage kept the tourists safe from the mighty predator. After Shamba finished his meal, it was time to wrap up the tour. Shamba had already climbed off the truck and Hodge drove the vehicle to the exit gate. Even though Shamba was still uncomfortably close, Hodge and his team had a routine in place to safely get the lion away from the vehicle. Shamba stood in the grass a few yards away when one of Hodge's employees called to him, using meat to lure him away. However, Shamba seemed more hesitant than usual, sniffing at the grass as if he couldn't decide whether to move or not. "Shamba, come on," the employees outside the fence called again, tossing another piece of meat toward the lion. This did the trick, and Shamba started walking away from the truck. With the lion moving off, Hodge jumped out of the vehicle and headed towards the gate to open it. He made a quick stop to check the grass and seemed to kick something. Then, as he turned back toward the gate, something inexplicable happened. It all happened in a flash. For reasons unknown, Shamba suddenly broke the usual routine. Instead of focusing on the meat, the lion turned back toward the truck and spotted Hodge, who was now outside and defenseless. Hodge knew how to handle his animals, but some situations were beyond control. He started running for his life, but it was futile. He was no match for Shamba. In just 3 seconds, the lion closed the gap between them. Hodge was almost back inside the vehicle's cab when Shamba pulled him to the ground, biting near his neck. The lion then dragged Hodge further into the enclosure, making it look effortless. Inside the truck's cage, the tourists watched in horror. Some started screaming and shouting for help, while others cried, unable to look away from the gruesome scene. "Get a gun! Get a gun!" someone yelled. For a brief moment, Shamba seemed to release Hodge, but it was just a fleeting pause. The lion quickly seized Hodge again and dragged him behind a nearby bush. "Shoot!" someone shouted urgently. a series of gunshots rang out. After several shots, there was no sign of movement behind the bush. "Someone get a rifle just in case," another voice called out. Finally, an employee managed to retrieve a rifle and shoot Shamba dead. Mike Hodge was still alive but in critical condition. His jaw was broken and he had multiple gashes on his neck. The 72-year-old was rushed to the hospital where he underwent emergency surgery. A hospital photo later showed Hodge in his bed, smiling despite the bandage around his neck and the breathing tube he needed after the harrowing experience. Despite the life-saving surgery, the psychological impact of the attack was profound. Hodge's physical wounds healed over time, but the trauma from the sudden aggression of Shamba, an animal he cared for deeply, left emotional scars. A photo taken in the hospital showed him attempting to remain positive despite the ordeal. Hodge's family was deeply affected by the incident. The spokesperson for the family mentioned that while Hodge was trying to put on a brave face, he struggled with the loss of Shamba and the psychological aftermath of the attack. The Mercalli Predator Center faced a significant emotional and operational challenge in the wake of the attack. The incident brought to light the inherent risks of working closely with wild animals and sparked discussions about safety protocols and procedures to prevent such tragedies in the future. Alexander Grease, commonly known as AG, was a dedicated zookeeper who worked at the Koshiban Zoo in Uzbekistan. Alexander had a career dedicated to animal care, with specific experience in managing and caring for wildlife in a zoo setting. His responsibilities likely included feeding, cleaning, and monitoring the health of the animals. As a zookeeper, he had been trained in handling various types of animals, including potentially dangerous species like brown bears. His role required a deep understanding of animal behavior and the ability to manage them safely. The Koshiban Zoo, where Alexander worked, is located in the Koshiban district of Uzbekistan. The zoo encompasses a range of enclosures and habitats designed to house different animal species. The facilities aim to provide environments that mimic the natural habitats of the animals to promote their well-being. The zoo houses a variety of animals, including both native and exotic species. This often includes mammals, birds, reptiles, and possibly other types of wildlife. The specific collection of animals can vary, but typically such zoos aim to feature species from different parts of the world. Like many modern zoos, Koshiban Zoo is involved in conservation efforts. This includes breeding programs for endangered species, educational programs for the public, and partnerships with conservation organizations. Alexander was known for his commitment to his work. His role involved not only daily animal care, but also ensuring that safety protocols were followed to protect both the animals and the staff. On January 3, 2023, the day at the zoo started just like any other. Alexander was responsible for taking care of the zoo's captive brown bear. It was feeding time and Alexander went to the bear's enclosure around 4 p.m. to prepare the food. The bear, which was becoming quite a popular attraction since the zoo's recent opening, was the only one of its kind on display. Its presence drew many visitors each year. At the time of feeding, the bear was nesting in its den, a separate part of the enclosure designed to provide it with a private space away from the public. Alexander began his routine by preparing the bear's food outside the enclosure. Once everything was ready, he unlocked the gate, opened the security door, and placed the food inside the bear's enclosure. This was a critical moment. The safety protocols required that he also close the den door to keep the bear separated from the outer part of the enclosure where he was working. Unfortunately, Alexander forgot to close the den door. This oversight was significant because the den door was meant to keep the bear confined to its private area, preventing it from roaming into the space where Alexander was working. It's possible that the bear was not visible at that moment. Not realizing he had forgotten to secure the den door, Alexander started heading back to the exit. Suddenly, he heard a chilling sound, a low growl accompanied by the thud of footsteps on the concrete floor. The hairs on his neck bristled with fear as he turned around in shock. There, emerging from the den section of the enclosure, was the massive brown bear. It sniffed the ground and began to move towards the exit door, its curiosity piqued by the unfamiliar open door. In his state of panic, Alexander was uncertain about whether to remain still or lie down and pretend to be dead. He tried to move to the side, hoping to avoid detection, while the bear was distracted by the open door. However, any noise he made drew the bear's attention back to him. In an instant, the bear was focused on the zookeeper. He was cornered and had no way to flee. The exit was just a few feet away. He made a desperate attempt to reach the door just a couple of yards away, but as he tried to slip past the bear, it swiped at him with its massive paws. The blow sent him crashing to the ground, his head hitting the concrete and air knocked out of him. He landed right in the doorway, so close to safety, but the bear pulled him back. Despite his frantic efforts to escape, the bear wouldn't let him go. Lying face down on the ground, the man could feel the full weight of the bear pressing down on him. The bear had thrown itself on top of him, and he cried out for help, the smell of the bear's breath filling his nose. With the bear on top of him, it clamped its jaws around his neck and started to maul him savagely. He could hear the bear's growls as it attacked. Its sharp claws tore into his torso, and it bit down hard on his face and neck. He desperately tried to protect his head and neck, but the bear was relentless. When the other workers rushed into the enclosure, they saw the bear on top of their colleague. They could see the man's legs flailing desperately beneath the bear as he tried to fend it off. There was nothing they could do to stop it. In a desperate attempt to save their friend, two co-workers bravely entered the enclosure with long poles. They hit the bear repeatedly on its back, but it still wouldn't let go. It wasn't until the bear finally released Alexander and stepped back that they were able to reach him. They quickly pulled him out of the enclosure, but it was too late. Despite their efforts, Alexander had already died from his injuries inside the enclosure. As the workers hurried out of the bear's enclosure, pulling Alexander's body with them, the bear initially walked away. However, just before they could leave, it suddenly turned and charged at them. Was it trying to protect its kill? Was it defending its space? What happened to the bear afterward remains unclear. The district police arrived at the scene and launched an investigation into the circumstances of the employee's death. Although zoo animals were born in captivity, they still retain their natural instincts. It's possible that the bear, feeling threatened in its territory, reacted as a wild bear might. David Solomon was a seasoned zookeeper known for his dedication and expertise in wildlife care. He spent 15 years working at a wildlife conservation park in South Africa, where he was responsible for looking after some of the park's most dangerous animals, including tigers, leopards, and lions. Colleagues respected Solomon for his hardworking nature and gentle personality. Despite his small and slim build, Solomon was particularly agile, which helped him in his duties. His deep affection for animals was evident, especially towards Jasper, a male Siberian tiger he had cared for since it was a cub. It was known for his size and strength, weighing around 675 pounds and standing over 5 feet at the shoulder. On that fateful day in June 2021, maintenance work was being carried out on the electric fence that separated the tiger enclosures. The power to these fences had been turned off to facilitate the repairs, a routine procedure that unfortunately created a lapse in the barriers meant to keep the tigers contained. Solomon was working in the pathway between the enclosures when Jasper managed to climb over the 12-foot-high fence, taking advantage of the power outage. Jasper, driven by his natural instincts and perhaps feeling an opportunity in the lack of an active electric fence, found a way over the barrier and charged towards Solomon. Solomon saw the massive tiger approaching and, in a desperate bid to escape, ran towards another fence. However, Jasper was too quick. The tiger caught up with Solomon, pulled him down, and began its fatal attack. Solomon's neck was broken instantly as Jasper's powerful paws knocked him to the ground, and he died almost immediately. Hearing Solomon's screams, his colleagues rushed to the scene. They witnessed the horrifying sight of Jasper mauling Solomon and tried to intervene by shouting at the tiger and throwing objects such as wooden planks and stones. Their efforts, however, were futile. Jasper, undeterred, continued his assault, dragging Solomon's lifeless body away from the pathway and further into the enclosure. The situation escalated when Jasper, still agitated and aggressive, leaped over another fence into the adjoining enclosure where 2 other Siberian tigers, Judah and Amber, were kept. Jasper attacked Judah, a male tiger, pinning him down and using his immense strength to overpower him. Despite Judah's attempts to defend himself, he was no match for Jasper and was killed in the struggle. By the time the authorities arrived, including the police, veterinary staff, and officials from the Kragakama Nature Reserve, the scene was one of devastation. Solomon lay dead, his body twisted and covered in blood, and Judah, the male tiger, was also found dead, with severe injuries inflicted by Jasper. Jasper was found near Amber, another tiger in the enclosure. Veterinarians quickly tranquilized Jasper and Amber to move them to another secure area. Jasper, having calmed down after the incident, was not euthanized. Instead, he was placed in a different enclosure with Amber. The incident led to an immediate closure of the park and a thorough investigation of the district police. They examined the conditions under which Solomon had been working and the factors that led to the power outage and subsequent fence breach. The park management emphasized the need for strict adherence to safety protocols. The tragedy underscored the inherent risk associated with working with wild animals, even those born and raised in captivity, and the importance of maintaining rigorous safety measures to protect both staff and animals in conservation settings. Rosa King was a 33-year-old zookeeper who adored animals, especially big cats like tigers. She worked at Hamilton Zoological Park, dedicating her days to caring for these majestic creatures and ensuring they were safe and happy. With 13 years of experience, Rosa had been in charge of the carnivore section for the past 8 years, looking after various big cats. Rosa was a hardworking individual, often putting in long hours during the summer months. She typically worked 45 hours a week, 6 days a week. She was always mindful of the dangers they posed. Safety was a top priority for her, and she ensured that both she and her colleagues followed strict procedures, especially around the tiger enclosures. On May 29, 2017, the Hamilton Zoo Park in Cambridgeshire, England, was preparing to open for the day. This zoo was renowned for its excellent animal care and educational programs. They housed a variety of animals including big cats, monkeys, birds, and reptiles. The zookeepers spent their days feeding the animals, cleaning their enclosures, and ensuring they were healthy and happy. On that day, the zookeepers made sure everything was in order before welcoming visitors. They aimed to keep the animals safe and content while providing an educational and enjoyable experience for the guests. Leading up to May 29th, Rosa King's schedule had been particularly busy. She'd already worked 9.5 hours of overtime. Additionally, she was hand-rearing several kittens abandoned by its mother at the zoo. At around 9:40 a.m., she had to clean the windows of the tiger enclosure. At Hamilton Zoo Park, Sissa the Malaysian tiger had a habit of peeing on windows of her enclosure, making it hard for visitors to see her. So the zookeepers always had to clean the windows to keep them clear. To enter Sissa's enclosure, the keepers followed a strict safety system. They had to make sure everything was in order before going in and were responsible for their own safety. The enclosure had 2 gates, a strong metal one for the keepers to enter the paddock and a wooden gate with a fence to keep the public out. Before going inside, the keepers had to check where the tigers were and then move them to a separate area using special vertical slides. Once the tigers were safely away, the keepers checked to make sure the slides were secure before going into the paddock. Rosa King was familiar with the safety procedure and had followed it countless times without any problems. However, on this particular day, there was a crucial difference that she was unaware of, and it ended up being a matter of life and death. Rosa entered the paddock as she always did, leaving the wooden gate open, which was a common practice. The wooden gate couldn't keep the tigers in. That was the job of the metal slides. Rosa thought the slide was in place as usual. However, she didn't realize the metal slide meant to isolate the tiger had been left open. Why? No one knows for sure. It's possible that Rosa herself had left it open the previous evening and didn't notice it when she arrived on Monday morning, May 29, 2017. Despite knowing the safety procedures and the risk, the 33-year-old woman entered the paddock behind the wooden gate and went through the metal gate. This suggests she didn't know the slide was open. Rosa's purpose for entering the paddock was to clean the windows, a task she often did. After Rosa finished cleaning the windows, she tried to leave by opening the metal gate. Unfortunately, she never made it out. At that moment, Sissa, the Malaysian tiger in the enclosure, attacked her. No one witnessed the attack, so the exact details are unclear. However, it's evident that Rosa was leaving when the tiger struck. Her cleaning cloth and bucket fell, and her injured body collapsed on the ground. Tragically, Rosa King lost her life in the attack. Around 11 a.m., a visitor found Rosa's body and alerted the zoo staff. They acted quickly by closing the gates and hurrying Sissa away from the public area with raw meat. This move was crucial in saving Sissa's life and preventing further incidents. It was later discovered that the zoo did not have firearms for emergencies. They relied on police to handle situations requiring weapons, such as dealing with an escaped animal. If Sissa had left the enclosure, the zoo would have been unable to respond effectively and would have had to wait for police help. A police crime scene officer reported finding significant evidence at the scene, including a large bloodstain on the ground, a set of keys, and a bloodstained paw print. He also noticed a wet cloth, a squeegee, and an upturned bucket near the keeper's gate to the enclosure. After the attack, it was found that a metal vertical slide, which should have separated the tigers from the keepers, was left open. Additionally, both metal gates used by the keepers to enter the paddock and the wooden gate meant to keep the public out were also found open. With Rosa King tragically dead, Sissa the Malaysian tiger still posed a serious threat. Both gates being open raised concerns that Sissa could potentially leave the enclosure and endanger visitors. Luckily, by the time this was discovered, families with children were already inside the zoo, but Sissa stayed within the paddock. During the inquest on July 1, 2019, it was revealed that Rosa had suffered severe injuries. The police investigation found no faults with the metal slides. The jury, while ruling the death accidental, noted that the zoo's safety procedures depended entirely on the keeper following their training correctly. They pointed out the human errors were a risk, making such procedures vulnerable to failure. Tohoku Safari Park, located in the Fukushima region of Japan, is a well-known wildlife park dedicated to the conservation and exhibition of various animal species. The park offers visitors a chance to observe animals in environments that mimic their natural habitats. Among its diverse collection of wildlife are powerful carnivores like lions, tigers, and bears, which require specialized care due to their size and strength. Kenichi Kato, a 53-year-old zookeeper, was a veteran employee at the park with 27 years of experience in handling such dangerous animals. Over his extensive career, Kato had developed a reputation for his skill and dedication in managing these creatures. His responsibilities included feeding and caring for the park's large carnivores, ensuring their well-being and safety. On Thursday afternoon, September 28, 2023, Kato was engaged in one of his routine tasks, feeding the lions. The process involved luring the lions into a designated feeding area or cave within their enclosure using food. This procedure was designed to ensure that the food was placed in a controlled manner, minimizing the risk of direct contact between the staff and the animals. However, on this particular day, Kato made a critical error. As part of the protocol after placing the food inside the enclosure, the door separating the zookeeper from the line should be securely closed and locked. This step was crucial to prevent the line from coming into contact with the zookeeper during the feeding process. Unfortunately, Kato failed to lock the door. As a result, the line, drawn by food and possibly feeling threatened or excited, took advantage of the open door and attacked. The predator quickly overpowered Kato, causing severe injuries. When emergency responders arrived, Kato was found inside the lion's cage, bleeding from his neck and unconscious. Kato was rushed to the hospital, but later died from his wounds. The local police were promptly notified, and an investigation was launched to determine the cause of the incident. The investigation revealed that the failure to secure the door was a significant factor in the tragedy. The park's management, including Norchika Kumakabu, the vice president, expressed deep regret over the incident. Kumakabu confirmed that the park would remain closed temporarily, while safety procedures were reviewed and updated to prevent such accidents in the future. Kenichi Kato's death was a devastating loss, especially given his extensive experience and dedication to his role. The park's administration extended their condolences to Kato's family and committed to implementing stringent safety measures to protect both staff and animals. The incident underscored the critical importance of adhering to safety protocols in environments where both humans and dangerous animals interact. Thank you for watching. If you want to know more shocking animal attacks, simply click on the next video. Don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button for more terrifying stories. Until next time, stay safe.